Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the June 20th meeting of the Planning and Zoning Board. If we'd have the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And for the record, Chairman Quish is not here. I will be assisting in running the meeting. If we can get the roll call, please, Meg.
Ms. Austin.
Present.
Mr. Castagnoli.
Here.
Mr. Hirsch.
Here.
Mr. Cater.
Present.
Mr. Collegian.
Present.
Mr. Mortimer.
Present.
Mr. Zaharidis.
Present.
And Vice Chairman Sadi.
I'm present. First item of business is new business, vote by August 24th of 2023. 1 and 3 Chester Street, a referral pursuant to CGS 8-24 to permit driveway access to the properties of 1 and 3 Chester Street by way of Chester Street on map 54, block 322, parcel 4, which the city of Milford is the owner. Good evening, Attorney Lynch. Are you here on behalf of the applicants?
I assume that Mr. Sulkus will want me to give you the background to this. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Yes, just for the record, Thomas Lynch, my office is located here in Milford at 63 Cherry Street. And I'm here tonight with my client, Warren Field Jr. Buddy is the owner of the property at 1 and 3 Chester Street. These are two lots that are the the third and fourth lots to be constructed on the former Beachcomber property. If you're familiar with that stretch of Melba Street, there's two houses that Buddy and his partners had already built at 90 and 92 Melba Street. 1 and 3 Chester Street are the two lots that are to the rear of the two houses that are already built. And we do have the map up on the screen to show you. So the proposal here, and it was already discussed with the city engineer who's voiced his approval with this. It's been discussed with the Inland Wetlands Administrator, Mary Rose Palumbo, who's in favor of this. This is similar to a situation that I had back in 2016 involving two rear lots located at 16 and 20 Westmore Road, down at the end of Point Beach Drive. And it was similar in the sense that that stretch of Westmore Road, even though it was a street that was shown on at that time in that area, it was a 1910 subdivision map. Here, Chester Street is a city road shown on a 1912 subdivision map. And as you all know, under our regulations, building lots have to have frontage on accepted city streets. So this is the proverbial paper street. Chester Street comes in off of Melba, and then it hits the marsh that's behind there, and it literally will never get developed beyond the construction of the two houses here. So the proposal is to have a common driveway to gain access to those two houses. Again, similar to the situation we had on Westmore Road back in 2016. And in my documents that I submitted to you tonight, we can scroll ahead maybe to those documents, but not only did I have a letter of explanation that accompanied the site plan, I also included a copy of the agreement that was drafted between my office and the city attorney's office, basically laying out what was going to happen here. So the proposal is to have a driveway come in off of Melba Street. The agreement with the city would be that the city would not have to maintain that driveway. The city would not have to provide plowing to that driveway. The city would not have to provide garbage pickup for the two houses. They would have to bring their recycle container and their garbage pails down to the intersection of the driveway and Melba Street. And in return, the client is not required to then put a street so to speak, that meets all of the city engineering standards in terms of width, in terms of sidewalks, in terms of curbing. The sewers have already been brought to these two rear parcels by way of an easement that my office drafted when the two lots at 90 and 92 Melba Street were sold earlier this year. So that's already in place. The underground utilities and the sewers to accommodate these two houses are already in place. So again, not to belabor it, but this is sort of a win-win for everybody. It saves my client the expense of having to put an improved city street in, but at the same token, it saves the city the liability, the maintenance, and the future, like I said, garbage and plowing that would be required to service those two houses. Under Section 8-24 of our general statutes, such a proposal like this, in terms of asking the Board of Aldermen to allow a roadway to be less wide than it needs to be, or any other standards that are set forth in the city engineering standards or the subdivision regulations, the proposal first has to come before this board, and if this board approves it, I then have to appear before the Board of Aldermen. So it's a two-step process. This is basically a referral from this board saying that this board has no objection to the proposal, and it then goes to the Board of Aldermen for consideration. So that's it in a nutshell, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you very much, Attorney Lynch. Are there any questions by members of the board? Seeing none to my left. Yes, Mr. Castagnoli.
Who's the owner of those two lots?
The owner of the two lots is Buddy Field and his partners, 3S Properties, LLC.
Okay, thank you.
I see that you said it backs up on the marsh. I see there's tidal wetlands there. Does this have to go through the Wetlands Commission?
No,
or
it doesn't infringe upon the wetlands.
it doesn't come close to the tidal wetlands?
No, but Mary Rose Palumbo did indicate her favor of this because of the fact there's less impervious surface that will result from the driveway versus a wider city street. So with concern to the wetlands, as well as the fact that we're all familiar with that area, it floods during heavy rain, less impervious surface area will actually be beneficial.
Yeah, okay. So was that an actual approval, or she just, did not review?
An application did not need to go to the Wetlands Agency.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. David, can we get the administrative summary, please?
The applicant is pursuing placement of driveways within the public right-of-way, the paper street, as an alternative to constructing a street. The request would need Board of Aldermen approval after an action, either an approval or denial by the Planning and Zoning Board.
Thank you. Any further comments or discussions on the area? We'll take a motion then, please.
Yes. I move to approve as presented a referral pursuant to CGS Section 824 to approve easements on to permit driveway access to these properties by way of Chester Street on map 54, block 322, parcel 4, of which the city of Milford is the owner.
Second.
Please note, Mr. Castagnoli, any further comments or questions? None. If you may take a roll call, please.
Ms. Austin.
With the motion.
Mr. Castagnoli.
Yes.
Mr. Hirsch.
With the motion.
Mr. Cater.
With the motion.
Mr. Collegian.
With the motion.
Mr. Mortimer.
With the motion.
Mr. Zaharidis.
With the motion.
And Vice Chairman Sadi.
With the motion, thank you very much, and this will be forwarded to the Board of Aldermen for their action. Is that correct, David?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We now have public hearings. Closed by July 25th of 2023, a vote by August 24th of 2023. The first is number 1333 Quarry Road, Zone ID. Petition of Attorney Lynch for a special permit with a site plan review for a pickleball court facility at map 91, Block 809, Parcel 6D, of which DFC of Milford LLC is the owner. Again, good to see you back at the mic. Thank you very much. We'll listen to your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And again, for the record, Thomas Lynch. On this application, I'm representing my clients, Shoreline Pickleball LLC and its principals, Patrick Oliver and Brian Malia, who are here with me tonight along with their family and some of their friends who may have some comments after I'm through. But they're excited to bring this application to you to establish an indoor pickleball facility at the location at 333 Quarry Road up in the industrial park off of Woodmont Road. The property is owned by DFC Milford LLC, and Brian and Patrick have signed a lease with zoning contingencies on it. So it's obviously subject to this board's approval to get site plan and special permit approval to establish the pickleball facility. So just by way of background, especially Patrick, I've known for many, many years. His family and my family are very close and have been for many years, and I've had the pleasure of now meeting Brian over the last 3 months. I set up an LLC for them to start their business, worked with them in terms of negotiating the terms of this lease, and this is basically the last piece in the puzzle, is bringing the application to you tonight for them to get special permit and site plan approval for the facility. When we started the process, I submitted to David a statement of use that I believe is in your documents that I gave to you. But basically, in the statement of use, Brian and Patrick stated that they are proposing an indoor-only pickleball facility at this site. The space that they're leasing is some 13,800 square feet. It is going to contain 5 padded pickleball courts, a small men's and women's locker room with no showers, an office, a small storage room, and a customer waiting area near the front desk. The planned hours of operation will be 7 days a week from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. Court rentals will be in 90-minute blocks. The courts will be utilized by 2 or 4 players, with 4 being the maximum. With a maximum of 4 players per court, 2 employees, and changeover traffic, we anticipate our capacity to be 24 to 26 people. And of course, I'm going to be speaking about that in a few minutes when we talk about the parking on site. Pickleball is an indoor or outdoor racket paddle sport where 2 players or 4 players hit a perforated hollow plastic ball over a 36-inch high net using solid-faced paddles. It is fun for all ages, and it's currently the fastest growing sport in America. Court demand is extremely high in Milford, and it will continue to grow as more people are exposed to pickleball. And I can state also for the record that just within the city of Milford, there's been a great effort to convert some tennis courts to pickleball use, to construct new pickleball courts across the city. The Milford Recreation Department has set forth a instruction program as well as starting leagues. And I have my mother-in-law who lives down in Florida, and she's in a gated community down there where they had about 14 tennis courts, and over the last year, all but 2 of those tennis courts have been converted over to pickleball use. So it is really a fast-growing, popular sport, and Patrick and Brian really want to have this facility address the growing need, and they look forward to getting open, hopefully, by the fall. Now, the property at 333 Quarry is located in the ID zone, and a recreational use such as an indoor sports facility, a batting cage facility, which I think there's one of those located on Woodmont Road. Any sort of indoor recreational facility is a special use in that zone. So it's not a permitted use, it's not a prohibited use, it's a use that is allowed with an application before you, seeking a special permit, and we also have to accompany that with a site plan. There was a site plan that had been performed by CrossFit some 2 years ago. Ron Wassmer had done the site plan for them, We employed Ron to update that plan with the parking count for all of the users in the building, as well as shoreline pickleball. And the chart that we've submitted to you shows that with the count that we would have to utilize if we went by Section 514 of the regulations, the parking regulations, for 13,816 square feet, one space is required for every 125 square feet. So based on that chart, and David can weigh in as well, but any sort of a recreation facility is deemed to be under those regulations, similar to a health club, so that based on that chart, we would need 111 spaces. My clients in their statement of use, however, told you actually the maximum that could be in the building at any time, based on 5 pickleball courts and the employees, they estimate 26 parking spaces would only be needed to be utilized for their use. There is the regulation that allows the board to recognize there's the concept of shared parking, and if David could screen, or fast forward the screen, we went out on site and took pictures of the parking that's on site during the day. And we have a series of pictures that we did submit. All right, so the first set showed Tuesday noon, and I have a series of pictures. There's some 5 or 6, 3 pictures that were taken on a Tuesday at noontime, showing the parking around the building and the minimal use thereof. There was another set of pictures that were taken on a Wednesday at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and those are noted. And the last set of pictures that we submitted were on a Friday at 9 a.m., and those are those pictures. So again, we wanted, without having board members go out and see the parking lot at different times of the day, we took these pictures and submitted them and uploaded them to the website to show that there's really minimal use of the parking there. The other recreation use that's there is Jay Leiden's CrossFit Gym. And again, these parking regulations address health clubs such as a Planet Fitness or a Fitness Edge, where you have hundreds of pieces of equipment in the building, where you then could have hundreds of people in the building, and the parking count makes sense. But when you have 2 users in this building, such as a CrossFit, which is a personal training center, minimal parking use there. The other use, the Science Center, is a storage, warehousing use, and then we have my clients. So again, based on the chart that in Section 5.1 of the zoning regulations, yeah, if you go by the requirement that's needed for a recreational facility, that you come up with a number of 111 spaces, but I submit that to you, and we make this part of this application to you, that the real number is 26. It can't be any more because there's only 5 courts, and you can only have 4 people on the court at a given time. So that is what I wanted to stress to you in terms of the issue of the parking. And lastly, we have submitted the floor plans. Joe Rousseau has designed the interior fit up. There's not going to be any addition to the building whatsoever. All the work is going to be done as interior fit up. So we submitted to you the existing conditions with the storage area and an office, and the floor plan here shows the 5 courts with the lockers and the waiting area. And then lastly, we had uploaded also the department reviews. The fire department reviewed the plans. The health department, the city engineer was totally fine with the plans, especially in light of the fact that there's no exterior work that's going to be done to the building. So with that, all departments that the zoning office required these plans to be reviewed by, they got favorable reviews. So with that, I submit to you that this is a great thing for Milford. I think it's a great addition, recreational addition to the city, and my clients are looking forward to getting it open. So if you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer them for you.
Thank you for the presentation. Is there any questions from the board at this point? This will be a public hearing. We'll hear from people in support or in opposition, but any questions at this particular point? I have a couple of questions. Appreciate it. I acknowledge that I also play pickleball. I just want to know, where was it you said you were playing pickleball?
I hadn't
In Florida?
started it. I was down in Florida at my mother-in-law's. And I
Oh,
was amazed.
okay. I just misunderstood that.
Sarasota National, across the street from where she is, where I play golf, they converted all the tennis courts to pickleball courts.
So I'll give you a real question, though. And as far as the presentation, it's superb, but the thing I don't see in the paperwork, I don't know if it's part of our consideration, is the surface putting on that, if it requires our action, if it requires, and maybe David, you can talk about it, but you know, the different kinds of surfaces that are going to be used. Is it something we have to get involved, or we just approve it?
No,
and you
it's-
put down whatever surface your client feels is appropriate.
Yeah, and those are building department issues. I know that Joe Griffith is sitting here, so hopefully we get our approval from you tonight, and the next step is getting the interior permits from him. And it's my understanding that it's a padded surface that's brought in it. So is it hosed down? How is it?
It's applied in about 8 layers of just different rubber, and then finally a coating that goes.
So it's like a rubber glaze that's laid down, and then they roll it and press it and then paint it.
Thank you. My questions have been answered. Anything else? So, Mr. Hirsch, thank you.
Attorney Lynch, will there be food and beverages served on premises?
Not at this time. I think in the future there was some discussion about having some sort of a luncheonette or a dinette, or maybe try to get a liquor license, but that's not part of this application. If that was the case, we would have to come back for an amendment. Yep. I think they just wanted to get open Eton right now, just to get it off the ground, and if it takes off, then there may be more amenities they may be looking to add to the facility.
Thank you. David, before we start the public hearing, could you give us the administrative summary on this plan, please?
The applicant is proposing to utilize 13,816 square feet of existing space in a multi-tenant building for a pickleball facility. The existing uses require a total of 136 spaces on the site, which has a total of 145 existing parking spaces. Section 5.1, Figure 4, subsection 10 requires 111 spaces for the proposed use. The total parking requirement for the site would then be 247. The applicant's statement of use is declaring a need of between 24 and 26 parking spaces. Section 5.1.8 allows the board to declare that the multiple uses can share the existing parking spaces for parking compliance. The applicant would be requesting that 24 to 26 of the existing 145 spaces be shared. 5.4 also allows for the board to declare the parking request as adequate.
Thank you, Mr. Sulkus. And just more of administrative area, if we're making a motion, do we have to declare in said motion that we're using 5.1.4?
It's actually superfluous. All you really need is 5.1.8 because it's a multi-tenant facility and you're allowing them to share the parking.
Thank you very much. So this is a public hearing and the public has a right to be heard. If you do wish to speak in favor of the application, please approach the area that Attorney Lynch was. What we do need from you in the beginning is be loud, give us your name, please, and your address for the record, and we'll listen to anybody that wants to speak. You might go ahead, please. Thank you.
Good evening. Julie Nash, Milford's Economic Development Director. I'm here to express my support for the proposed indoor pickleball facility on Corey Road, specifically emphasizing the existing adequate parking to accommodate the anticipated need. As an avid pickleball player myself, I believe that this facility will not only provide a valuable recreational resource, but also have a significant positive impact on our local economy. Pickleball, one of the fastest growing sports in the country, has gained immense popularity across all age groups. It combines elements of tennis, badminton, and ping pong, offering a low impact yet highly engaging activity for individuals of varying skill levels. The proposed indoor facility would offer a controlled environment that allows for year-round play, ensuring consistent access to the exciting sport for our Milford residents. Beyond the recreational benefits, an indoor pickleball facility can have a remarkable economic impact on our local economy. According to recent studies, pickleball has been shown to generate substantial revenue and contribute to local economies. Here are some statistics that highlight the economic benefits associated with pickleball facilities. We should see an increase in tourism, job creation, local business support, and increased property values. By approving the establishment of an indoor pickleball facility, our community can harness these economic advantages while fostering a healthier and more active population. The facility will not only provide a space for physical activity, but also serve as a hub for social connections and community engagement. The shared parking approach, as allowed by the regulations, would enable the efficient use of available spaces while accommodating the parking requirements of the indoor pickleball facility. It is important to note that pickleball facilities tend to have staggered usage patterns, with peak hours typically occurring during non-traditional busy periods, such as mornings and early afternoons. I understand the significance of balancing the needs of various stakeholders while promoting economic growth and quality of life. By approving the proposed indoor pickleball facility, we can encourage an active lifestyle and support the local economy in Milford. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
Thank you very much. If anybody else wishes to speak in favor of the application? Okay. Are there anybody in opposition to the application? I see Mr. Griffith, Attorney Crusaden behind there. Just for the record, it appears that nobody wishes to speak either in favor or in opposition. So at this point, are there any questions of the board before we consider closing the hearing? Seeing none, is there any reason we should not close the hearing? I will then make the ruling that we'll close the hearing. Any further discussion by the board? Appears we don't have any further discussion. Mr. Hirsch, I'm sorry.
Yeah, in terms of the parking, I'm okay with it, but let's just be clear that if they have tournaments or other large gathering events, there may be more than 26 cars present, but I'm not saying you're going to get to a substantial level that it'll make a difference.
Thank you. And Attorney Lynch, normally you have a chance to get rebuttal, but I didn't see anybody in opposition, but if you want to speak again.
No, I'm
Thank you.
fine, and I ask that you approve this, and thanks for your consideration.
Thank you.
I do have a comment.
Mr. Mortimer has a question.
Mr. Hirsch brings up a good point. Is there seating for spectators
No.
included?
No, just people playing.
So tournaments would be unlikely to be held.
I can't imagine that it would be anything that would generate more people than what we're proposing. I suppose if you had a tournament and you had just one or two courts being used, perhaps there would be some more people in the building, but right now we're not anticipating that to be the case. And again, I refer you to those pictures. The parking lot is really underutilized.
And I believe there's 145 spaces anyway, and just the 3 businesses in that
There's
industrial park?
There's 4 businesses. 4 businesses. Sign Center, Nick Newell's Boxing Club, which is again another small user recreational facility, okay? Jay Leiden's CrossFit Gym, and then the proposed application.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We did close the hearing. If we could take the vote, please, Meg. Right, we need a motion. Mrs. Arides?
I move to approve as presented
the petition of Thomas Lynch Esquire for a special permit with site plan review for a pickleball court facility at map 91, block 809, parcel 6D, of which DFC Milford LLC is the owner.
Second.
We'll note Ms. Austin on second. If you may take the, now that we have a motion and a second, take the roll call, please.
Ms. Austin. With the motion. Mr. Cassarino.
Yes.
Mr. Hirsch.
With the motion.
Mr. Cater.
With the motion.
Mr. Collegian.
With the motion.
Mr. Mortimer.
With the motion.
Mr. Zachariadis.
With the motion.
Vice Chair Sadi.
With the motion, congratulations and good luck. The next matter that we have is item 2, 106 Merwin Avenue, Zone R75, petition of Attorney Kevin Crusaden, Esquire, for a special permit for grading and filling at map 59, block 737, parcel 13A, of which 106 Merwin Avenue LLC is the owner. That is item number 2. Do you suggest that we might consider both items jointly?
Yes, Mr.
Thank
Chairman.
you. Then I will be asking us to consider additionally item number 3, which is 112 Merwin Avenue. Again, Zone R75, petition of Kevin Crusaden Esquire for a special permit for grading and filling at map 59, block 737, parcel 14, of which Peter Dreyer is the owner. Attorney Crusaden, thank you very much.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission. For the record, Kevin Crusaden, my office is here in Milford at 3 Lafayette Street. I'm representing Peter Dreyer in the 112 application and 106 Merwin Ave LLC in the 106 Merwin application. Both gentlemen are out of state tonight on vacation, can't make the hearing. The reason for this application, it's a special permit because we're asking to bring in fill and do grading on these 2 lots. It's on Merwin Avenue on a low point that historically floods, especially the past 15 or 20 years. It's immediately adjacent to one section of the Sandpiper Crescent, the northerly section of that condominium association. 106 abuts against that property. There's swamp in the back. And there's been a history of flooding, like I said. What brings us here tonight is it's a special exception to bring in grade and fill because we're not doing any construction in conjunction with it. Both lots are vacant. They're going to remain vacant. I think they're both historically 3 dwelling units per lot, but they've been vacant for a number of years, basically used for parking. Both owners own properties across the street on the water side and use these lots for parking right now. About a year or so ago, Mr. Mooney purchased 4 lots to the right of 112 and has built 4 single-family homes, all very nice homes. However, when he went to build the last home, it's been our position that some flooding was increased on my client's lot 112. That led to a couple of different lawsuits that we're hoping to get settled by an approval here tonight so that we can elevate 106 and 112 about 18 inches at the crest or the crown of the property. That's I think the existing conditions survey, which according to our engineer, Bob Wee from Codispodi and Associates, will alleviate the flooding problem that's now caused, or I'll just leave it at that has been a problem for many years and was exacerbated recently. As part of Mr. Mooney's project, he did bring in about 18 inches of fill on the lot next to 112 and built a small retaining wall. We think that prevented some historical flooding runoff, which is the basis of one of the lawsuits. So we're trying to get a global resolution here. Mr. Lynch is here. He represents Mr. Mooney in one of those actions. The other action is against the City of Milford for the zoning officer decision that Mr. Mooney's house is in compliance with the zoning regulations. So it's pretty straightforward. We do have Greg Podleski's city engineer sign off. We went to inland wetlands because there is inland wetlands immediately in the back of both of these properties. We got approvals for 106 and 112. And the project would consist of bringing in enough fill, I forget the total cubic yards, but to elevate the properties so that it's going to be crowned or crested in the center of the properties, and it's going to drain both to Merwin Avenue and to the back where the inland wetlands are. The other issue is that there's flooding in the streets caused by some pipes that are not maintained by the state of Connecticut, and that spills over and causes a problem too. So if you don't have any, that's the basic presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions for the members of the board? Yes. Mr. Mortimer, thank you. You have to put your speaker on.
Sorry. Just reading the background, there was a lot of back and forth on whether or not this was tidal waters or inland wetlands, which kind of concerns me. But apparently, you did get approval from the Wetlands Commission.
Right.
Ultimately. You said 18 inches of fill was already installed?
That was on Mr. Mooney's property, which is, if you're looking at
his own property.
112 from Merwin Avenue, it's immediately to the right. It's a brand new single-family home. Yeah.
And this property is just no plans for housing. This is just to alleviate the flooding, excuse me, and that's the entire purpose.
Correct. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? David, would you give us the administrative summary, which I believe covers both properties?
Yes, this application is for grading and filling two undeveloped lots that are adjacent to one another, 106 and 112 Merwin Avenue, for the purpose of minimizing flooding and stormwater runoff. The proposal has been reviewed and approved by the DEP and the Inland Wetlands Agency. Grading and filling requires a special permit when the activity is not associated with a project issued a building permit per section 5.7.4.1.
Thank you, and just through Mr. Attorney Crusaden to you, Mr. Sulkus, could you explain why DEEP was involved in this? Is that because I heard Attorney Crusaden say there was some state work? Could you just explain why DEEP was involved?
When you have low-lying property, we're concerned about an area called, because it's escaping me because you just asked, but there's a jurisdiction, there's a state jurisdiction line, which has to do with elevation. So anytime we're near that line, we send it off to DEP for comments.
It's the
coastal jurisdiction line. Yeah.
Thank you very much. At this point, Attorney Crusaden, is your presentation done?
Yes, pending any further questions.
Can I ask something?
Sure. Mr.
I'm just trying to understand. It sounds like you're saying if you were building houses, you wouldn't need to get a permit for this because it would be part of the project. So the only reason why you're doing this is because you're not building, correct?
The only reason it's a special permit, correct. Yeah, we would still probably need a CAM application because we're within a certain distance of a coastal resource, but it would not be a public hearing special permit, correct.
Okay. All right.
See no further questions. Anybody that wants to speak in favor of the application? Thank you, Attorney Lynch.
Thank you, Mr. Sadi. Again, for the record, Thomas Lynch. I represent Cal Money, who's the builder of the four houses to the east of this site, and Jim hit it right on the nail on the head. We wouldn't even be here if Mr. Walsh and Mr. Dreyer were building houses. You can bring fill onto your property in association with backfilling or finishing the construction of a house. So my client finished his last house, and Mr. Dreyer saw fit to bring a suit against him, claiming that there was water that was running off. This is a universal solution. what Kevin has brought to you and what Bob Weway put together in the plans that are before you tonight really came after discussion of all parties concerned and their lawyers, and I think this will solve the situation, resolve the situation, and hopefully result in discussions as to who's going to pay for what, but it will result in 2 lawsuits getting settled, one of which involves the city of Milford because Mr. Dreyer filed an appeal of the denial by the Zoning Board of Appeals of Mr. Crusaden's application to appeal the issuance of the building permit. The ZBA upheld Stephen Harris's issuance of the permit, and that's now lawsuit number 1. The other lawsuit was the civil suit that Mr. Dreyer brought against Mr. Mooney, claiming that there was excess water flowing from 114 Merwin onto Dreyer's property. So again, this resolves it, and we went before the Inland Wetlands Agency with this same application, and they approved it, and we'd ask that you do the same. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Again, for the record, besides the 2 council that spoke, I see no other members of the public besides Mr. Griffith. In any event, does anybody wish to speak in opposition to the application? I see nobody approaching the podium. Is there any reason we should not? Does anybody have any questions for anybody? Looks like Mr. Zarides. Yes, please.
I have a question. About the lawsuit against the city, you're saying if this is approved, the lawsuit against the city is going to go away?
That's correct.
Is that something we could put into motion?
No, legally
Then
speaking.
why not?
Because you don't have any jurisdiction over a private lawsuit or a lawsuit against the city. But it's designed, and we worked hard with all of the parties involved to do a universal settlement. We had multiple meetings with my client, Mr. Walsh, and Tom and his client. So there will be no need for the continuing action against the city if the flooding is resolved. So the zoning appeals, administrative appeals, have to be approved by the withdrawal or the settlement have to be approved by that would have to be approved by the ZBA, and then it would have to be approved by the court. So a stipulation of that nature wouldn't have any legal impact to it. But it's fully, I mean, for the record, that's the intent. I mean, as soon as we can get this settled, we're withdrawing all actions. We don't have any further claims or concerns.
Thank you. Mr. Hirsch?
Attorney Crusaden, you say you'd have no further claims, but what if the flooding continues?
Well, the administrative appeal is based on the record that occurred at that point in time, and it's frozen in that point in time. So if there was some future appeal and it was flooding related, first, it would not really be related to the zoning enforcement officer decision, and once we settled this one, we wouldn't be able to appeal because the appeal period would have expired at that point in time. If there was some further action that was of a private nature, then either owner could bring a private action against each other at any time. But the zoning appeal process is very strict as far as the timeline goes. So once this was settled or withdrawn, then we wouldn't be able to bring another one because there wouldn't be any pending action on it.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Cassignoli?
if we allowed this, okay, and there would be fill brought in, would that cause flooding on Mooney's property?
No.
It would not. In
No.
other words, the water would not run off. Where would the water go?
So though it's the plan, according to the Bob Weway's engineering design of it, is that it's like a saddle in the middle running from west to east or east to west. So the water would flow towards Morrowan Avenue or towards the inland wetlands in the backs of the property. It won't flood Mr. Mooney's property because he's already elevated at 18 inches and he has a retaining wall that's blocking a lot of the water from flowing off 112 Merwin.
Okay, thanks.
So, excuse me, so the flooding would go onto the street?
It's not flooding. Right now, water comes from the street because the street has pipes that are not properly maintained by the state of Connecticut, and also because of the elevation of the property. So it would just drain off. You're not going to have any further flooding in the street. The street's already, when it rains, and people are familiar with that area, high tide or a rain, that street is flooded anyway. But it's designed in a manner that it goes back from the inlet, goes back to the inland wetlands, and would flow back towards the street, but not in a. It's dividing the amount of rain that's collected.
The front of the lots have that gravel thing too.
Yeah, there's also.
There's a trench with gravel in the front of the property.
Right.
It's an alleyway design that would catch the water going towards Merwin.
Nice.
Yeah, that's correct. And on the side, yeah. Yep.
Mr. Hirsch?
Oh, yeah, I just wrote this down, Attorney Krasadian. Based on this request for grading and filling, will there be any effect on the condominium, that Sandpiper Crescent condominium complex?
No. If you, I don't know if you can see it from the plans, but the elevation of that, it goes up dramatically from 106 up to, it kind of sits up on a hill. Thank you.
Well, thank you for the questions. Is there any reason we should keep this hearing open?
I just have, I guess, a procedural question. Does our ruling have any effect on the lawsuit per se?
Now, this is an application to bring in fill. Put aside everything else. This is an application under your regulations for fill. It doesn't matter what the reason is. He has a reason, he gave you a reason, but it could be something totally different. This is simply to bring in fill because there is no other construction going on where you could be bringing in fill and you wouldn't have to be asking this board to bring in fill.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I will close this public hearing. I will listen to a motion on, we have to do it on both properties, but whoever wishes to make a motion, they can make the same motion for each one, their option, but we are considering both at this particular point. Thank you.
Okay. I move to approve, as presented, the petition of Kevin Krasadian Esquire for a special permit for grading and filling at map 59, block 737, parcel 13A, of which 106 Merwin Avenue LLC is the owner, as well as permit for grading and filling at map 59, block 737, parcel 14, of which Peter Dreyer is the owner.
And just for the record, to the movement, we're talking about 106 Merwin Avenue and 112 Merwin Avenue. Is that accurate, Mr. Mortimer?
That is correct.
Okay. Do we have a second on the left?
Second.
Ms. Austin, thank you. Any further discussion on this matter? Hearing none, if you might take a roll call, please, Meg.
Ms. Austin.
With the motion.
Mr. Castagnoli.
Yes.
Mr. Hirsch.
With the motion.
Mr. Cater.
With the motion.
Mr. Collegian.
With the motion.
Mr. Mortimer.
With the motion.
Mr. Zacharidis.
With the motion.
And Vice Chair Sadi.
With the motion, thank you very much, Council, and good luck on the fill issue. So, we have no old business. Liaison reports. I have nothing. I don't think we have any others. Do we have any subcommittee reports? I'm going to ask you at some point in your staff report to explain about the anticipated voting coming up, if you would. POCD is one, and regulation. Approval of minutes. Somebody make a motion to approve the minutes that was present.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Ms. Austin, and second would be Mr. Mortimer.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Chair's report, the chair is not here, and I don't have any specific report to make. David, staff report, if you could let us know, because some of us expect that we'd be seeing the POCD before us, possibly for this meeting, but if you just explain how that's going.
Sure.
And Regulation Subcommittee, I think we're also expecting that to get before us.
I'll start backwards. The Regulation Subcommittee, we would anticipate the regulation, the new proposed 642, public hearing for that would be at the second meeting in July, because by then all of the referrals will have been in, because we have to refer them out, and there's a statutory time that we have to give to the regional councils of government and DEP to get us their comments if they choose to comment. So we will have everything ready to go for that second meeting in July. Regarding the POCD, there was an extended period of time to get public comment. So because of that, we're basically a meeting behind. So it's anticipated that you will have a draft document which will have been updated, taking into account the public comments where appropriate for your consideration to then be circulated at the next meeting, which would be July 5th, I believe.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any questions for David?
Yeah, you said the Regulation Subcommittee, second meeting in July. When would that be?
Not the Regulation Subcommittee. This board, at your last meeting, I believe, approved for us the circulation of a proposed new 642 regulation. So we have circulated it. We'll have the comments back for scheduling a public hearing on the proposed 642 that would take place again at the second meeting. I believe it's July 20th is the second meeting in July.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a motion for adjournment? So moved. Mr. Castagnoli was anticipating it, but he beat you. But thank you. Motion for adjournment. Thank you very much. See everybody in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Have a happy 4th.